Hello, welcome back to Crashing Sounds. My name is Chris. Sorry about the wet hair. Absolutely pissing it down with rain on my way home from work in this lovely winter Bristol we're having right now. Let's keep this review train rolling. I have been enjoying checking out music from some of metal's thriving underground. As you've probably noticed recently, it's been a blast. Today I'm checking out the long-awaited, well, for me anyway, debut album from Bristol Doomgaze legends Epimetheus. I've been a fan of Epimetheus for quite a little while now. If you follow me over on Instagram, you may have seen I did a quick review of one of their singles, Alone He Guards This House. I really liked it, obviously, and I thoroughly enjoyed them live as well. We come now a little over 2 years later, and the band are, as I said, releasing their debut full-length album, Perseus 9 on February 6th, which should be today if I'm organised enough to get this done. Big thanks to the band as always for sending me their work ahead of release so I could show it off for Crashing Sounds. Big love guys, thank you so much. It's been a few years in the making, so let's get stuck into Perseus 9 by Epimetheus. So I wanted to confess to you all something that I don't think I've ever actually mentioned before here on Crashing Sounds. I'm not much of a knowledge base when it comes to doom metal. It's an area of the scene that is normally either end of the spectrum for me. Either it's lengthy sections and a focus on more, for lack of a better word, repetitive, weighty riffs. It doesn't necessarily always invigorate me in the same way that something more frenetic or moving might do. Or on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes I hear doom metal and I get pulled right in and completely lost in it. It's rarely in between for me. Basically, it's a love it or hate it thing. The hate is a pretty strong word, though. There isn't much metal in the way I would say that I actually hate, except maybe for Slaughter to Prevail. All that being said, though, of course, there are bands that incorporate elements of doom that I love. Froglord, obviously. I love the doomy elements in Moonreaper, of course. And I love Epimetheus, and specifically Perseus 9, because it's fucking brilliant. Took me a while to arrive at a point there, but I made it eventually. What this album does for me really well is instill quite a sense of atmosphere and a sort of cosmic horror-style dread. I say cosmic because I love the consistency in terms of the aesthetic of this thing. The artwork has some of that sort of grainy texture to it that reminds me of like classic sci-fi literature. And of course you have the titles of this thing, Earthbound, Terraform, Drift Beyond, all things like that. It has a nice thematic through line running throughout, which I always love to see. Even the title of the album, and of course the track Perseus 9. Now, I don't know if that's an actual reference to something sci-fi. I just think of the Greek legend when I hear the word Perseus, but it sounds like the name of like a spacecraft in a Arthur C. Clarke novel or something. And you get right into that looming sense of dread right from the word go with the track Earthbound. It's a really infectious bass line, I must say, and I love the sort of walking drum pattern. It works really well together with the bass. The lyrics give off the setting that I was talking about just now, with stuff like system fail, atmospheric shields, all that stuff. I love how the music boots off at the line, abandon ship.
Shields equipped, pods manned, abandoned ship.
Also, love the vocal use of the different vocal deliveries when the, I guess, chorus comes charging back in again. Adding to that sense of through line, these songs transition between each other so satisfyingly. You've got the held notes between Earthbound and Coalesce. Then going into track 3, there is pretty much no time to breathe as Drift Beyond comes barreling in. Is this a concept album? Am I being dumb? Or is there an actual narrative that I'm not following? I'm shit at spotting that kind of thing. That being said, what I do notice and love again is how the thematic through line is maintained throughout the entire package. Aside from the obvious transition between with the held note, Coalesce continues the tone as well from Earthbound. I mean tone as in thematically speaking, though the stanky tone of the instruments is of course consistently stank face inducing across the entire album. There's just this sense of unease that permeates throughout the entire thing. I know the low droning tone over these more monotone vocals is kind of par for the course with this kind of music, but rarely does it get me in that spaced out headspace like it does here, before that riff comes charging in and I'm headbanging. What I love though is how the band aren't afraid to let songs progress from where they start. Coalesce, to use that one again, by the end the vocals are the polar opposite of how the song boots off and the tempo just ratchets up. There's so many moments I love here. The track Held No More is so good. That low end is utilised to full effect. It almost gave me some Tool vibes with the haunting vocals that then have a higher melody coming in. It's like a guitar string being overtuned. You're just waiting for it to snap constantly, and they wind that guitar string for a really long time. When the drums start building, you think it's about to go wild, but then it just drops all the way back down again, and up we come again. We don't get the big payoff until about 3 minutes into the song, but the track so carefully controls the momentum leading up to that point, and you never get bored. I love as well how the vocals never go above that held back drone and melody. Despite where the song ends, it really gives the vocals a somewhat foreboding presence. They do go ape just before the end though, because why the hell not? I almost couldn't believe when I looked back and saw how long this song was. It did not feel over 9 minutes, I can assure you. While the more reserved vocals on this album are a real highlight for me, I can't not acknowledge how all over the spectrum they go with this album. The melody on the title track is excellent, with the trading back and forth between the more melodic vocals and the more abrasive ones. And Love on Calling, where they just let everything out. It's probably the most emotional part of the album. It's like they forego the dread for a moment to do something much more pained and, as I said, much more emotive. Also having the line, "It's calling me back home," on the penultimate track of the album, it feels so narratively purposeful. Again, please tell me this was a concept album, right? I'm not going mad. I say that because the closing song, Terraform, does exactly what I would want in a closing song. I'm going to stop saying this at some point, but it bears repeating at least one more time. I love a closing song on an album that feels like a closing song. This achieves that because it almost parallels the opening song Earthbound. Lyrical and riff-wise, it's almost like another take on what that song was doing right at the beginning of the album. To bring up a comparison you have never heard before, this reminds me a lot about the ending of Unleash the Archer's album Abyss, where the closing song Afterlife calls back to the opening song Waking Dream in a way that I just absolutely adore. By having the last song on Perseus 9 not copy the original song but have some ties to it, completes the whole package. Like, this was one complete arc from beginning to end. It almost makes it mandatory now to listen to this entire album in full, because you need the journey between the beginning and the end for that payoff to really work. And I've fucking used the word journey, god damn it. As well as that though, the song is fittingly climactic as all hell, with every instrument just going full out. So now that I've finished gushing over the last track, I think that nicely leads me to my final thoughts, and come on, you've probably already gauged by now, I fucking loved this one. I knew Epimetheus were great, given the singles I'd heard up till now. I was not expecting an album with this much attention to the thematics and scope. Obviously, this kind of metal uses larger-than-life riffs and extremes to create a real sense of enormity, but what really grabbed me here was the general vibe of the thing was just as monstrous as the music itself. Perseus 9 is a doom metal album with an atmosphere and aesthetic worthy of that musical style, and I'm so impressed with it. Across the board, everything works perfectly together. The riffs, the vocals, the drums, oh my god, the drums, they're so good on this album. The way they subtly change while the main riff is repeating for ages, it's just awesome little embellishments like that that really help the momentum. I cannot wait to see this done live. I think it's going to be an absolutely mind-bending experience. Epimetheus' debut album was very much worth the long wait, and however much time and effort the band were putting into it. Perseus 9 is well worth your time if you're a fan of thunderous heavy metal, and it's a very exciting first album of hopefully many more to come. Thanks as always to Epimetheus for sending me this album to review. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Go listen to some amazing heavy metal, and I shall see you in the next video.